is undisputed, nor is it a question of law, as the Constitution is clear. The heart of the matter is this: will members of this House have the courage to choose fidelity to the Constitution over loyalty to the Constitution and our country? For Americans today and tomorrow, I urge all members to summon the courage to uphold the rule of law and vote yes. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Clay.
Gentleman's recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to hold Donald John Trump accountable. The power, his deliberate obstruction of the House's constitutionally mandated oversight responsibilities of the presidency to weaken the separation of powers and subvert our Constitution by dangling $391 million in congressionally appropriated tax dollars over the head of an embattled ally in order to investigation into a potential political opponent. Our founders feared a lawless, amoral president would willfully put national security at risk for his own personal gain. In 1974, Republicans made it clear that they're upholding the Constitution. Today, the uncontested evidence shows Donald Trump violated his oath of office. My friend, or defend the Constitution. History will not permit you to do both. I yield back.
Gentleman from Oklahoma continues to reserve.
I do, Madam.
Aware of the gentleman how many more speakers he has?
I'm prepared to close when my friend is.
I'm prepared to close.
Gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized to close.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I yield myself the balance. Speaker, before I begin my formal remarks in closing, I want to say one thing for the record. I have great respect for all my friends on the other side of the aisle, and I am sure they're voting their convictions. So when I vote mine, please don't imply I'm doing it because it's what I believe is right. And I do believe I can defend both the President and the Constitution. I am doing. Madam Speaker, I cannot oppose this rule strongly enough. The process we saw leading up to it today was a complete charade. It was a closed process, an unfair process, and a rush process. We never had one logical, predetermined ending. Throughout it all, the majority trampled on minority rights. They refused on hearsay news reports to make their case. They denied Republicans the right to hold a minority hearing day, and they refused the President of the United States his due process rights in the committee that was actually conducting an What was the result? Articles of impeachment based on an event that never happened, a purported quid pro quo that did not exist, aid that was allegedly withheld that in reality was never withheld at all, and nothing more than fantasy. Madam Speaker, we deserve better than this. Impeachment is the most consequential undertake. It must not and cannot be based on a flawed process. It cannot come at the expense of minority rights or due process to the President that the majority has pursued since the day it was elected. And it cannot be based on nothing more than spin and hearsay. I oppose this rule. Madam Speaker, it's a very solemn vote that all of us will cast. I want to end by, number one, thanking my good friend, the chairman of the Rules Committee, for conducting underscore again, we are very violently opposed to the process, very strongly opposed to the rule, think this is a charade and been very unfair. So, Madam Speaker, previous question, no on the rule, no on the underlying measure, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Let me thank my friend Mr. Cole for his kind words, and I appreciate his leadership in the Rules Committee and the fact that he respects this institution. But, Madam Speaker, let me say again what happened here. The President withheld congressionally approved military aid to a country under siege to a That's a cold, hard fact. The question before us comes down to this. Should a president be allowed to ask a foreign nation to interfere in an American election? 1972, leaving leaflets at the homes of potential voters urging them to support George McGovern for president. No relation, by the way. I remember what an honor it was to ask people to support him, even though in life to ask voters for their support in my own campaigns. I've been part of winning campaigns, and I've been part of losing ones too. People I thought would be great presidents, like Senator McGovern, mistake. I was disappointed, but I accepted it. I would take losing an election any day of the week when the American people render that verdict. But I will never be okay if other nations decide our leaders the welcome mat for that kind of foreign interference. To my Republican friends, imagine any Democratic president sitting in the Oval Office, President Obama, President Clinton, any of them. Would your answer here still be the same? No one should be allowed to use, period. This isn't about siding with your team. I didn't swear an oath to defend a political party. I took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And when I vote yes, my conscience will be clear. I ask all of my colleagues to search their souls before casting their votes. For our democracy, to stand up for our Constitution. Madam Speaker, I urge a yes vote on the rule and the previous question.
The question is on order in the previous question on the resolution. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Madam Speaker.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Reduced to 5 minutes, the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of adoption of the resolution. This will be a 15-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 229, the nays are 197. The previous question is ordered. The question is on adoption of the resolution. All in favor, say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Gentleman from McGovern.
Madam Speaker.
Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will device. This will be a 5-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 228, the yeas are 197. The resolution is adopted and without objection. House will be in order. Pursuant to House Resolution 767, the House will proceed to the immediate consideration of House Resolution 755. The clerk will report the resolution.
House Calendar 55. Resolved that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the United States Senate. Articles of impeachment of itself and of the people of the United States of America against Donald John Trump, President of the United States of America, in maintenance and support of its impeachment against him for high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 1, abuse that the House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment, and that the President shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional oath faithfully to execute the office of President of the United States, and, to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of Donald J. Trump has abused the powers of the presidency in that, using the powers of his high office, President Trump solicited the interference of a foreign government, Ukraine, in the 2020 United States presidential election. He did so through a scheme or course of conduct that included soliciting the government of Ukraine to publicly announce investigations harm the election prospects of a political opponent, and influence the 2020 United States presidential election to his advantage. President Trump also sought to pressure steps by conditioning official United States government acts of significant value to Ukraine on its public announcement of the investigations for corrupt purposes in pursuit of personal political benefit. In so doing, President Trump used the powers of the presidency in a manner that compromised the national security of the United States and undermined the process. He thus ignored and injured the interests of the nation. President Trump engaged in this scheme or course of conduct through the following means: agents within and outside the United States government corruptly solicited the government of Ukraine to publicly announce investigations into A, political opponent, former Vice President Joseph R. Biden Jr., and B, a discredited theory promoted by Russia, alleging that Ukraine, rather than Russia, 2, with the same corrupt motives, President Trump, acting both directly and through his agents within and outside the United States government, conditioned 2 official acts on the public announcements that he had requested. A, the release of $391 million of United States taxpayers on a bipartisan basis for the purpose of providing vital military and which President Trump had ordered suspended, and B, a head of state meeting at the White House, which the President of Ukraine sought to demonstrate continued United States support for the government of Ukraine in the public revelation of his actions. President Trump ultimately released the military and security assistance to the government of Ukraine, but has persisted in openly and corruptly urging and soliciting Ukraine to undertake investigations for his personal previous invitations of foreign interference in United States elections. In all of this, President Trump abused the powers of the presidency by ignoring and injuring national security and other vital national interests to obtain. He has also betrayed the nation by abusing his high office to enlist a foreign power in corrupting democratic elections. Wherefore, President Trump, by such conduct, has demonstrated security and the Constitution if allowed to remain in office, and has acted in a manner grossly incompatible with self-governance, warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under 2. Obstruction of Congress. The Constitution provides that the House of Representatives shall have the sole power of impeachment and that the President shall be removed from office on impeachment for other high crimes and misdemeanors. In his conduct of the office of President of the United States and in violation of his constitutional oath, faithfully to execute the ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully categorical and indiscriminate defiance of subpoenas issued by the House of Representatives pursuant to its sole power of impeachment. President Trump has abused the powers of the presidency in a manner offensive. The House of Representatives has engaged in an impeachment inquiry focused on President Trump's corrupt solicitation of the government of Ukraine to interfere in the 2020 United States presidential election. The investigation served subpoenas seeking documents and testimony deemed vital to the inquiry from various executive branch agencies and offices and current and former officials. Excuse, President Trump directed executive branch agencies, offices, and officials not to comply with those subpoenas. President lawful subpoenas of the House of Representatives and assumed to himself functions and judgments necessary to the exercise of the sole power of impeachment vested by the Constitution in the House of Representatives. The following means. 1, directing the White House to defy a lawful subpoena by withholding the production of documents sought therein by the committees. 2, directing other executive branch agencies and offices to defy lawful from the committees, in response to which the Department of State, Office of Management and Budget, Department of Energy, and Department of Defense refused to produce a single document or record. 3, directing current and former with the committees, in response to which 9 administration officials defied subpoenas for testimony, namely John Michael Mick Mulvaney, Robert B. Blair, John A. Eisenberg, Michael Ellis, Preston Wells, and T. Ulrich Breckbuhl. These actions were consistent with President Trump's previous efforts to undermine United States government investigations into foreign interference in United States elections. Through these actions, propriety, scope, and nature of an impeachment inquiry into his own conduct, as well as the unilateral prerogative to deny any and all information to the House of Representatives and the exercise of its sole power of impeachment. In the history of the Republic, or sought to obstruct and impede so comprehensively the ability of the House of Representatives to investigate high crimes and misdemeanors. This abuse of office served to cover up the president's own repeated misconduct and to seize and control the constitutional safeguard vested solely in the House of Representatives. In all of this, President Trump has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as president and subversive of constitutional government, to the great prejudice of the people of the United States. Wherefore, President Trump, by such conduct, has demonstrated that he will remain a threat to the Constitution if allowed to remain in office, and has acted in a manner grossly President Trump thus warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States.
(767). The amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Committee on Judiciary is adopted. The resolution shall be debatable for 6 hours, equally divided, and controlled by the chair and ranking member of the Committee on the York, Mr. Nadler, and the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Collins. Each will control 3 hours. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Nadler.
Madam Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their 755.
Without objection, so ordered.
Madam Speaker, I now yield 1 minute to the distinguished Speaker of the House.
Gentlelady, distinguished speakers recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding, for his tremendous leadership in helping us honor the Constitution of the United States. I also extend my gratitude to Chairman Schiff, who will be presiding later. And every morning, when we come together, members rise and pledge allegiance to the flag. Every day, all across America, children in school, members of the military, officials, and those pledge allegiance to the flag. Let us recall what that pledge says. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The republic for which it stands is what we are here to talk about today. A republic, if we can keep it. To exercise one of the most solemn powers that this body can take, the impeachment of the President of the United States. No member, regardless of party or politics, comes to Congress to impeach a president. But every one of us stood on this historic House floor before our beautiful American flag and raised our hands in this sacred oath. I do solemnly United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help me God. For 230 years, members have taken that sacred oath, which makes us custodians, declared independent and established a new nation. They crafted a system of government unlike one ever seen before, a republic, starting with the sacred words, fought and died to defend democracy for the people. But, very sadly now, our founders' vision of a republic is under threat from actions from the White House. That is why today, sadly, opened the debate on the impeachment of the President of the United States. If we do not act now, we would be derelict in our duty. It is tragic that the President's reckless action no choice. What we are discussing today is the established fact that the President violated the Constitution. It is a matter of fact that the President is an ongoing threat to our national security and the integrity of our elections. Historians, legal scholars, and former prosecutors, regardless of party, have stated that the president committed impeachable offenses. Since today is a national civics lesson, though a sad one, I submit study.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What we are discussing today is the established fact that the president, again, violated the Constitution to our national security. And the testimony of decorated war heroes, distinguished diplomats, and patriotic career public servants, some of the president's own appointees over the past week, of his public office to obtain an improper personal political benefit at the expense of America's national security. When a president weakens a Democratic ally that is advancing American security interests by fighting an American adversary, the president also jeopardizes the integrity of our elections. All Americans agree that American voters should choose our president, not some foreign government. The founders